Bringing in a new character to an established D&D game is difficult, whether that be with a new player or an existing one switching from one character to another. Now, in actuality, they just have to sit down at the table with a character sheet and play, but from a narrative aspect, it can be kind of a challenge to not have it feel trite or contrived, especially if it's in the middle of an ongoing campaign. You have to think, you have these characters who have been together for a while and been through so much together, and then someone kind of walks up out of the blue. Now, a lot of this depends, like everything else, on having open table communication, good players, and a good DM with a good relationship. The reality is everybody just kind of makes it work, but that doesn't always feel great. See, players want to engage the parts of their character that are kind of antithetical to play. This is very similar to the setup of a campaign. Why would we be working together? Why would we have this new person come in and trust them with our lives and our things? Now, a lot of times we kind of just hand wave it. But again, it doesn't feel great. This is the situation I found myself in over the weekend as my main home game reconvened for the first time in a little while after the holiday break. Now, one of my players was playing a character that was older, and most of the story they wanted to tell, we got to tell during the first run of this campaign. Where we left off seemed like an appropriate place, and when we picked up, there had been a 3-year time jump in world time. So my player decided that his character was old and had accomplished what he had wanted to, dealt with the things that he felt he needed to. So he wrote a handwritten letter and left it for the rest of the character. Now, I started the session with the rest of the characters coming back from some mundane adventure that they had been on and returning to their newly acquired keep, where they would find the letter. And within 10 minutes of starting the session, I had a table full of players crying. I don't know if there's a real metric to judge whether or not you have good players or a good DM, but that felt like one. So now it was time. My player had already rolled up and decided on a new character, and they needed to be introduced to a party of level 10s, picking at the threads of storylines that had been set up for the last 2 years, dealing with things that were pretty heavy. Now, my player offered me something that was golden that I didn't take enough advantage of. I did okay, but after the session, I'm now realizing that I could have done much better. So I'm going to share that with you, and hopefully you can take some of this advice. Beforehand, my player told me, look, I know they have goals, they have things they need, and they need a lot of information. If at any point you want my character to, for some reason, have that information, just say so. Now, I took this as a golden opportunity because it was one, but I made a mistake. When the topics came up after the characters had been introduced, I made him roll for it. And he rolled decently, but he didn't wind up with the kind of intimate knowledge that the other players required to immediately ingratiate him into the group. I didn't make that character necessarily necessary. And that was a blunder. See, they are dealing with these same questions of narrative. They are dealing with these same internal justifications that are hard to find. Now, all my players are great. They know they are here to play D&D. They know they're going to play D&D. But no matter what, anytime you have a new character enter the game, you are going to run into the same kinds of issues. Doesn't matter how they act. Doesn't matter if everyone's personalities vibe at the table and in character. For some reason, there is always a little standoffishness, usually from the side of the players whose characters are still together. And that's an emotional response. That shows connection to their character, and it makes sense. They just lost someone they have grown to have a relationship with or love for however long you've been playing, which in my case is a few years. So just letting a stranger into the fold, even if this is an imaginary game, can feel tough. It feels like something you should challenge. It feels like something you should vet, even if everybody at the table knows this is the new character and they're going to be a part of the party. So what could I have done better? I shouldn't have made it a role. I shouldn't have made it ambiguous. I should not have had to been propositioned for such an elegant solution. Look, the emotional standoffishness is going to be there at first. That's part of character development. That is part of what's fun of introducing new characters. It's watching these characters grow to know each other and become a party. You don't want to skip that. What you want to skip is the hesitation to start that process in the first place. What I should have done was made this new character integral to one of the problems the party had. If there's an evil force held up in a tower that is thoroughly defended, that the players need to take care of, that new character has been there. Or even better, has free access. Maybe because of their bloodline or previous jobs. Maybe they were in the employ of the BBEG before, whatever your player is okay with or wants to work with. But that would be something so useful that the rest of the characters would never turn it down. Maybe the new character has an inn with a high-level NPC, has the contacts that the players desperately need, or equipment. Your players need to travel somewhere far and they're on a timeline. Give your new character a flying ship. Now, I'm talking about my group who are level 10. This might be appropriate at this time, but for some reason in their backstory, they have acquired a flying ship that needs a crew and a purpose. Your players are dealing with an underground criminal network. The new character used to work for them, has direct access to the heads, or exact knowledge of the breakdown of the power structure of this organization. Don't throw your player's new character into the fold and say, make yourself valuable. You make them valuable. Ingratiate them into the world to such an extent that the players can now justify their characters not saying no. This makes that transition feel narratively so much better. And they can still tiff and argue. They can still have their differences. They can still kind of be harsh to this new character, which is generally inevitable for at least one or two of the players. That's part of the story they're telling. But you no longer have to watch as those players sit there and try and justify their characters being okay with what's happening. It'll just make sense. All right, thanks for watching. I hope this helped. Like, subscribe, follow for more. We're gonna be doing some fun stuff over the next couple months. All right, let's get to work.